Welcome into the Sports Objective. We've got a busy night. Actually, breaking news we'll do in the second half of the hour. Pirates cutting four sports. We'll talk about that and the ramifications of cutting four sports and what that looks like. We'll do that after the fact. Stay tuned. It's going to be a fun show. And speaking of a fun show, Bubba, very excited to have our next guest.
Yeah, welcome into the program. As you see there on the bottom right corner of your screen, former Florida quarterback, Gator Hall of Famer, and two-time SEC Player of the Year, Shane Matthews. Shane, welcome in.
Glad to be here, guys.
Welcome in. We'll talk about, I know in a little bit, you have a podcast. We're talking about that right before we started. We'll talk about that. We wanted to have you on. Definitely, there's a lot of great stories, I'm sure, with UFF and, of course, the old ball coach. I mean, there's lots there. But how did you get started at the University of Florida? How did that come about with Coach?
Well, my story, I came from the state of Mississippi. My dad was a high school coach there. I won a state championship my senior year. Terrell Buckley was one of my teammates there that ended up going to Florida State. I signed with Galen Hall. He was the head coach at Florida at the time. My dad had played at Ole Miss with Archie Manning, so most everybody in the state thought I was a shoo-in to go to Oxford. But I decided to go to Florida and just kind of got lost in the shuffle my first 2 years. And I guess it's a good thing there was no transfer portal back in those days, or I may have been gone. And then they hired this guy, Steve Spurrier, and Galen got fired, so they hired Steve Spurrier after my redshirt freshman year. And I honestly had never heard of him because back in those days, the facilities aren't like they are now. There were no statues, there were no Heisman trophies, pictures, or anywhere in the locker room. And so I remember going home for the Christmas break before our bowl game and watching Duke and Texas Tech playing the All-American Bowl game in Birmingham. And that was his final game as a Duke coach. So I'm like, all right, me and my dad sat down, being a high school coach. We love football. We're like, man, this is right up your alley. So he gets the job, and in the spring he says, I don't care who you are, what you've done, everybody's going to be given an equal opportunity to show what you can do. And, that's coach speak. Everybody says that, but do they really mean it? And he meant it. The first couple of scrimmages, I didn't get in. I was buried like 5th or 6th on the depth chart. A couple of guys got hurt. I got in, played pretty well. And make a long story short, they were tearing up our turf at the swamp at Florida Field there in Gainesville. So we had to play our spring game in Jacksonville in the Gator Bowl. And I got drafted as the number 1 pick by John Reeves, who was coaching the Orange team.
Wow.
And I went in there and threw 3 touchdowns, threw for about 200 yards in 3 quarters, and I became the starter. It's kind of a unique story.
Yeah, I want to back up just a minute. You talked about being from Mississippi. You played high school ball. Was it in Pascagoula?
Well, what's interesting, I grew up in the Mississippi Delta as well. My dad was a high school coach there. I played all the sports until after my sophomore year. He was offered the job at Pascagoula High School down on the coast. So we decided to move to a much bigger school. And so I graduated from Pascagoula High School.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times. I was talking to Bubba earlier. We were going over your profile, and he mentioned you playing high school ball in Pascagoula. And I was like, Pascagoula, home of the Mississippi Squirrel. And my buddy there wasn't familiar with what I was talking about.
I do. Yeah. The day the squirrel went berserk.
Well, how many times have you heard that over the years?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Good old Ray Stevens.
I certainly knew Ray Stevens, but I did not recall that song. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about, it's funny you brought up that spring practice in 1990 because I'd actually seen just doing some research preparing for this interview. I saw where Coach Spurrier had made a quote to Ivan Maisel, who's so well known from ESPN, just saying how, I think, like you said, 5 quarterbacks competing for that job. And Coach Spurrier said, I don't know who it's going to be taking snaps in the fall, but they're going to lead the SEC in passing.
Yeah, he said it to a lot of media guys. He also said it to the Jacksonville Gator Club before that season. And I'll be dang, he was correct. I was fortunate to lead the conference, all 3 years I played, and be the SEC Player of the Year twice. Should have had it my senior year, but we lost a lot of good players and kind of sputtered around my senior year.
Talk about Coach Spurrier. What's your relationship? Obviously, you were talking to us beforehand that you guys did a podcast. You guys, I take it, are still very close?
Extremely close. I was fortunate to play 14 years professionally in the NFL.
Wow.
And it wasn't because of my ability, really. It was because of my mind and knowing the game, and the way he taught me allowed me to play that long. But yeah, he's I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for him. He's always said, a couple of his favorite quotes are, "You can't take money to the grave, but you can take championships to the grave." And he really is all about his championships, whether they're at Duke, Florida, or South Carolina, or wherever he's coached. He also, he's a guy that he said, if your players want to hang out with you and drink a beer when it's all said and done, you've done something right as a coach. And I can't tell you how many former players love hanging around him, drinking a few beers with him. He's a player's coach. The outside people don't like him because he says what's on his mind. The opponent fans, but he was great for college football. He changed college football, and like I said, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, you talk about personality, and then that's why a lot of people don't like him, is because he does have such a big personality. And what are some? I'm sure you over the years you've got some. Give us a couple good Steve Spurrier stories, something funny if you don't mind.
Well, gosh, we could be here all night, but
I bet.
One of the first stories that stood out to me was, coaches script their plays these days. He's never been a guy to script his plays. He just has one piece of sheet of paper, handwritten. He does it old school. But his first game at Florida against Oklahoma State was our first game in his tenure, and we kind of had a handful of plays that we were going to run. Possibly run depending on field position, where you get the ball, what hash, this, that, and the other. And he goes around the locker room. He comes up to me, pregame warm up. He's like, "Shane, what play you want to start with?" Here I am, a redshirt sophomore, never taking a snap in college football. There's 90-something thousand fans out there. People are bitching and complaining that he's named me the starter, a guy who's never taken a snap. I'm like, "Coach, how about maybe a draw play or a screen?" "Shoot. They didn't pay me all this money to come down here and run the football. We're going to throw it." And we had about a 25-yard completion the first play of the game. 4 plays later, we score our first touchdown. But that's just his mentality. He was very aggressive. And, one of my favorite Coach Spurrier stories, this was after like my second or third year playing professionally. I always made Gainesville my home, off-season home. And he owns pretty much half of Crescent Beach over there in the St. Augustine area. He's got houses, condos, or what have you. So he called me. This was like in February, probably about March. He's like, "Come on over here and play golf at Marsh Creek with me." So I drive over for the day. And, of course, it's Florida. It's 95 degrees, hot as hell. And we play golf. He's like, "Come back to the condo, have a couple beers, and why don't you go to dinner with me and Jerry, his wife?" I'm like, "Well, Coach, I probably need to get home. I don't have a change of clothes. I'm drenched." He's like, "Don't worry about it. You can shower, and I'll get you some clothes to wear." So he knocks on the door while I'm showering, and he hands me one of these. I mean, this is like 1995. There wasn't a whole lot of dry fit. It was one of those 100% cotton Sarasota Gator Club type, real thick golf shirt. Hands that to me and hands me a pair of navy blue, like, the old tennis shorts that people used to wear. He's like, "Here, just wear this to dinner. We're just going down the street." So, all right. So I put it on. Hear another knock on the door. I said, "Yes, sir, Coach." He opens the door. He goes, just turn your underwear inside out. That's what I usually do."
I remember, Shane, one of my favorite parts of thinking about coaches, he always got accused, even in Duke, when he ran up the score against North Carolina back in, I think, '89. But I'll never forget that he took a picture of the scoreboard, and people were really angry back then. This is way before social media, obviously. But another thing I remember about him was when you guys with Florida. I don't know if it was during your time exactly when, but years ago, I'll never forget, the people of Vanderbilt were upset because of the score being run up. And he said, "If you don't like it, get used to it." And I'll never forget that as long as I live.
Yeah, he always took a picture at the scoreboard with his team if he won a championship. And so maybe you're referring to when Duke, I think, upset Clemson and they won the ACC. That's what he always did. But, his philosophy was, people thought he ran the score up, and I can see how they thought that. But his philosophy was, okay, whether you're a walk-on, second or third string, quarterback, receiver, running back, whatever, and we're up and I put you in the game, I'm going to let you run our offense. That means my second, third string quarterbacks are going to throw the football. It's your job to stop us. So he's really not running it up. He's allowing these guys that bust their tails in practice to get some experience and get to play in front of a crowd. But think about the great Nebraska teams that ran the option. Okay. When they were beating people 50-7, they kept running the option.
Yep.
So we never thought of it as running up the score. It's their job to stop us, but we just continue running our offense.
Yeah, I agree. Talking about Spurrier and things he's done or so, one of my favorite Spurrier quotes. Did we lose Shane?
Hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
We hear you. I got no video on my end.
Really can't see.
Yeah, I don't see y'all anymore. I don't know what happened there.
Well, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, I guess we'll just keep going. Shane, one of my favorite quotes from Spurrier, and I don't remember when he said it, maybe mid-90s, I don't remember exactly when it was. Maybe mid-90s. It was something to the effect of he was talking about the rivalry with Tennessee. And can't spell citrus without UT.
Yeah, that was he loved to take little jabs at the opponents. And I don't know if he came up with that or someone told him, but he loved saying that because if you think back in the 90s, that Florida-Tennessee game was always the third week of the season, but that was for the SEC.
Yeah.
I mean, Tennessee was dominant back in those days. And, I think Coach Spurrier in his 12 years at Florida may have only lost to Tennessee 2 or 3 times. I could be mistaken, but, he loved because if you won the conference back then, you were slated to go to the Sugar Bowl. Well, the next best team went to the Citrus Bowl. So that was a way he'd take a jab at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Hey, while we're on the topic of taking jabs at Tennessee, I knew a story that I saw here recently watching some of Batesy's films that we were talking about before the show, Shane, is just about how after a win in Knoxville, he told one of the assistant coaches to go over to the band and strike up Rocky Top.
Yeah, he's always doing stuff like that, and we loved it as players because people say he was very arrogant, and maybe he was, but it was more of a swagger, and it rubbed off on all his players. And the best feeling I think in the Spurrier era when we went and played in opposing team stadiums, anytime we could put 40 or 50 on you. And late in the fourth quarter, the stadium is emptying. That was such a great feeling. And that's one thing that we tried to do every time we went on the road.
Shane, when you played at Florida, what was the biggest rivalry for you guys? Was it Tennessee? Was it another SEC game? Or Florida State?
Well, we would all say Georgia.
Okay.
And the reason is because – well, it was Tennessee too in the 90s, but it's more the SEC, either Tennessee or Georgia back in the 90s, because in order to win a championship, an SEC title, we had to defeat one of those, especially when when you're talking about when they split the divisions East and West. Florida State rivalry is always big, but you don't win anything. You don't win. You don't get a ring. You don't get a banner. You don't get anything put up in the stadium for beating them. And that's one thing Coach Spurrier, in his 12 years, he won 7 SEC titles, 1 national championship, and that's what we strive to do.
Did a good job of that. I wanted to ask you, as far as that stadium is impressive. I've been near it. I didn't get a chance to go in it, but I told you in 1995, I went there to visit my friend on spring break, and the swamp was unbelievable. It's big on certainly on television, but you get near that thing, it's massive. What was it like the first time you walked out there? What was it like playing in the swamp? I just can't imagine that.
Well, it got better every year that I played in it because they kept adding. They'd add to one end zone, then they built skyboxes, then they built more skyboxes. So now it's ridiculous. It seats a little over 90,000, and you're right on top of the crowd is right on top of you. I mean, literally from the sideline to the first row, it's probably 10 yards. I mean, it's that close, maybe less. And it's just extremely loud. It's hot because it's kind of down in the ground. But it's one of, if not the best home field advantages in all of college football.
Yeah, like you're saying, Shane, I made that trip to Gainesville for the game against the Pirates back in 2015, and we were only sitting about 10 rows up behind the East Carolina bench, and not having been there before for a ball game. I had just been there and seen the stadium from the outside about 5 years prior. But when we walked in that night, it really jumped out how close the stands were to the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
Feels good to go ahead, Bubba.
No, you go ahead.
Shane, as far as you were talking about the different rivalries and the championships and all with Coach Spurrier, is there a certain championship do you think, as far as the SEC championship? Obviously, I know which ones you like, but is there certain ones that really stick out to Coach? Has he ever told you about? Like, is it the first one he won, or is there? I guess all of them are special to him.
Well, he got there in 1990. We won the SEC. We went undefeated. We were 7-0 or 8-0. But something that happened 5 years prior to him being the head coach put us on probation, so we weren't declared champs. But that 1990 team is very, very special to him. And then in 91, we won the first official SEC championship in school history. So that one is extremely important to him as well. But like you said, he won 7 of them. I think they're all very important to him. And obviously in 96, he got the national title, played for the national title the previous year in 95, got destroyed by Nebraska, but they bounced back the next year and beat FSU in the Sugar Bowl.
And Bubba, I see
Shane, we have a question from one of our viewers, Johnny Gardner. He said, Shane, did Coach ever talk about why he chose Florida is in terms of playing there? He said he knew that he was a Floridian by birth, but growing up so close to Knoxville, playing at Science Hill High School, I believe I've seen Coach Spurrier talk about this on his SEC story, saying it was the offense that UT ran at the time. But can you shed some more light on that?
Yeah, I think you're correct. I believe Tennessee at that time was running more of the option or wing tee or something. He wanted to go throw it, and Ray Graves had told Coach that, we're going to come down here and let you throw it around. And one thing is Coach Spurrier, and he did this when he was recruiting kids. What happens when people get old in their life? They move to Florida. Well, here an 18-year-old kid, I can go to Florida for free and play football and live in the sunshine. And that's what he told when he'd walk into homes when he was recruiting. Hey, people save up their entire lives to move to Florida. You can come play for the Gators and maybe live in Florida for a long time if you decide to sign with the Gators. So I think that had a lot to do with it. And I'm pretty sure that's why he chose the Gators.
That's really cool. And
Shane, you mentioned Coach Galen Hall, and I know his dismissal was more about off-the-field stuff than wins and losses, but the program prior to Coach Spurrier's arrival they had won 6, 7, and 7 games those 3 seasons, and then Coach Spurrier's first year, you guys win 9. You go 9 wins, 10 wins, and an SEC title, and then 9 wins, and you lost in the inaugural SEC title game to Alabama. So he really took things to another level and did so very quickly.
Yeah, it's crazy what he did in his 12 years. And as you mentioned, he turned it around very quickly. He'll tell you there's a lot of talent on that team. And, he changed the culture of the way they played football in the SEC, coming in and throwing it around. And one of the best things, Coach Spurrier, when he left South Carolina, came back to Gainesville, and now he's an ambassador at the university, which I'm not sure exactly what he does as an ambassador. But he put together a reunion one summer down in Daytona for all 12 of his teams. And I didn't realize this, but, there were hundreds of people there with their kids and wives and girlfriends, what have you. But every player that played for Steve Spurrier at the University of Florida won a minimum of 9 games every year. And that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we'll take 6 right now, Shane. We're
Get you a
going
bowl
3 and
game,
4
right?
wins. Exactly. A bowl game is like Kyle said the other night, like going undefeated.
Yeah, right now, as bad as we've been.
No doubt about it. Shane, I had a question as far as we have a second-year head coach in Mike Houston that we think a lot of, and obviously the program has been down 5 straight losing seasons. When Coach took it over, I know there was some, like Bubba was saying, alluding to off the field stuff, maybe more than anything else. But when you were talking earlier about the culture and stuff, how did Coach come in and turn the culture around, turn things around that fast?
Well, he basically said, in the first meeting we had, he goes, we're going to win championships here and we're going to beat the Georgia Bulldogs. That was the number one goal. And like I said, his swagger, confidence, arrogance, however you want to phrase it, it rubbed off on us. And the guy won a championship at Duke University. He won an ACC title at Duke.
Yeah.
If you can win at Duke back in those days, you can coach. And I just think he knew there was great talent here. We just had to believe. And, we won in 90, 91, and 92, and we kind of laid the foundation for the Spurrier era that led to the Werfels and that whole crew that won a national title.
Oh, yeah. Definitely paved the way for that bunch, and certainly put down the foundation, right?
Absolutely.
And you talk about how he, in that initial meeting or one of those initial meetings, talked about beating Georgia. I think he was there 12 years. I think he's 11-1 against the Bulldogs.
He sure was. And, he didn't have a whole lot of success as a player against Georgia. And I think that bothered him after he left the University of Florida as a player. And when he had an opportunity to come back and coach here, and he knew we had to beat them to win championships. And as you mentioned, he went 11-1. I went 3-0, and we destroyed them in 2 of the games. My senior year, they were very good. They were ranked like 4th or 5th in the country, and somehow we beat them. But that was a rivalry game that he made sure we found some way to win it.
Now I'm trying to recall my years of running together. When was it that obviously the game is typically played in Jacksonville, but when that stadium was being built in Jacksonville, there were 2 years where the game had to be played in Gainesville one year and then in Georgia between the hedges the other year. What years were those?
Yeah, I want to say that was after I graduated. I want to say it was the year the Jaguars came into the league. So I want to say it was the 94 year and 95. So he loved that because he knew what the most points scored against Georgia up in Athens had been. And his goal was to go up there and drop 50 something on them, and they did it. And so the most points ever scored on the Georgia Bulldogs in Athens, the Gators did it when they went up there between the hedges.
Yeah, and you mentioned his swagger. A lot of guys want to act confident, and it's just an act. They can talk it, but they can't back it up. How did you know? I mean, was it immediate that you knew, all right, Spurrier, he's not just talking this. He can do it, so we can do it. Was it immediate that you knew that your coach wasn't just full of shit, that he backed up what he said? I mean, I guess seeing him doing it at Duke probably helped.
Yeah, I think the way he carried himself in practice, he's not one of these yellers, screamers. Practices aren't real structured. He doesn't script anything. It just comes off the top of his head. But the way when he installed and taught us offensively, and then in that spring we went out and our defense didn't know what the hell was going on. I mean, we were throwing it all over them. And then after that first game, when you're actually playing against a different opponent, and I think we were like, man, this guy can call some plays. If we can just buy in, which we were bought in, this guy's special. And, he's just confident and has a great mind for the game. And, it's like I said, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for Steve Spurrier.
You mentioned earlier 14 years in the league, and that was, you said, primarily because of your mind. Talk about your NFL career.
Well, there ain't a whole lot to talk about. I think I started 35 games in 14 years. So I didn't get drafted. I was supposed to be the third quarterback drafted behind Drew Bledsoe and Rick Meyer.
Wow.
I'm still waiting for the phone to ring. There was like 8 or 9 guys drafted that year, but I was fortunate. I signed a free agent contract with the Bears, and I was there for 4 years. Went to Carolina for 2, back to Chicago for 3, and then Washington 1, Cincinnati 1, Buffalo 2 years, and then Miami Dolphins with Saban my last year. But the reason I lasted because I understood my role in the team. Everybody wants to play, but sometimes you got to be smart and say, look, you're 190 pounds. You don't have the physical stature of a lot of these guys. Yeah, I can throw the football. I'm more accurate than most of them. I know where to go with it. But when guys are drafted, they're going to be given every opportunity they possibly can to succeed. And they may fall flat on their face. But I knew every offense I was in, I was the guy that would help the starter. I would help the receivers if they needed to know what to do. So I was kind of like an extra coach. And I enjoyed doing that because I'm a coach's son. I've been around it my whole life. And learning from Steve Spurrier allowed me to play that long.
Yeah, and like Bubba earlier, my years are overlapping in my brain. I'm trying to get time periods right. Was your time at Florida, did it overlap with Charlie Ward's time at Florida State?
Charlie Ward.
Yes.
So my senior year was the first year Charlie played quarterback.
Okay.
And we played them in Tallahassee. And it was the week before the first ever SEC championship game against Alabama. And like the third play of the game, I got clobbered, but I also got stepped on my big right toe. Back in those days, you had those big, long screw-in cleats. And my toenail popped off. I could feel it. This was like a second down play. I could feel my whole right foot just getting hot. And my sock filling up with blood. So I go to the sideline. There's nothing they can do. But I keep playing, but we couldn't stop them. We'd go down and score. They'd run a kickoff back or something. So the game got out of hand. And Coach took me out a little bit after halftime and to get me ready to play against Alabama the next week. But, yeah, Charlie Ward was a senior. I was a senior, and I don't know what year Charlie was when his first year of playing.
Okay.
He was pretty damn good.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And when Heisman going to the NBA,
Yeah. And Shane, I had another question or a comment regarding your time with Florida, but before I get to that, when you were discussing your pro career, you said your final years with the Dolphins and Coach Saban. So talk about that opportunity to learn from definitely one of the best, if not the best, college football coaches ever. And that time, obviously, with the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, what was unique about that is I was only there about 6 weeks. I was actually back here in Gainesville after my second year with Buffalo in 2005. I pretty much had been in the league 13 years. I was pretty much getting ready to retire. I was out mowing my yard and got a call from my agent because Dante Culpepper had blown his knee out or something. He was the starter for the Dolphins at that time. So I'm down there for about 6 weeks just as a backup. But it was interesting because I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to Nick Saban then because he was just a guy, just a regular coach in the NFL. Now, he was a player's coach. He got along great with the players. He was hard on his assistant coaches. But I kind of wish now, knowing what he did once he left there, that I would have kind of paid a little more attention, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
No question about it. And as far as your podcast, let's talk about that. Very excited to have a fellow brother in the podcasting land, podcasting world. Let's talk about that. I know that something you started. I want to give a plug, and I can't wait to listen myself.
Yeah, I started it. A guy runs all my marketing and advertising and stuff, and I started it back in January. It's called Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. You can watch it on Facebook live from 8 to 8:55 in the morning. Obviously, you can watch it anytime else on Facebook Live. You can check it out on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. But, now that there's been no sports, I've had, different journalists. I've had a bunch of former teammates. I had today a girl that was a swimmer here at Florida the most decorated Olympic female athlete ever, Dara Torres, who swam here at Florida, was on my show today. Has 13 medals, and it was a phenomenal show. So it's been cool to reconnect with not only teammates of mine, but I brought in a lot of Urban Meyer kids that played for him, won championships. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, the way you describe it, Shane, it sounds very similar to us here at the Sports Objective. Our focus is East Carolina athletics, as you can tell, but at the same time, we like to branch out and talk to guys like yourself. It's funny you brought up Charlie Ward because we had him on the show, and we've talked to a lot of excellent former athletes, and then also journalists like you mentioned.
Yeah, I had a couple of days ago, I called it my Georgia Bulldog segment. I had Mark Schlabach from ESPN.com because he's a Georgia grad, and then I had Kevin Butler, who was a teammate of mine with the Chicago Bears and the only kicker in the College Football Hall of Fame. So I caught a lot of grief from my Gator folks.
And I got a suggestion for you.
What's that?
For your podcast, don't steal the idea altogether because it's something me and Bubba's kicked around. Well, why don't you get a former Tennessee player, maybe a linebacker that sacked you a couple times, and just talk about some games you guys had, or former Georgia player you remember well. I think that'd be a lot of fun to listen to.
That is a great idea. I don't know why I never thought of that.
Well, certainly that's something we talked about. And say another thing I thought about we talked about is having like the old ball coach talking to Phil Fulmer, like having two former coaches talking, see if they would come on the same show together.
Yeah, that would be great. Especially they used to take a lot of jabs at one another back in the day.
Yeah,
they're good friends. I know they're good friends, but that's the great thing about Spurrier is, he beat Clemson 5 straight years at South Carolina, which to me is just remarkable. And he used to take so many jabs at Dabo Swinney, but they're great friends. It was just a friendly little rivalry that they had.
And Shane, one of the things I wanted to ask you, talking about the present, obviously a lot going on right now. When will football season start? How will it look when it does start? So just talk about the Gators. And obviously, that program is really trending in the right direction under Coach Dan Mullen. So talk about the Gators present day.
Well, Dan Mullen has things rolling in the right direction. He was here before, won 2 national titles as offensive coordinator. He wins 10 games in year 1, 11 games in year 2.
I think we lost.
That's why I'm hoping that we can get college football played, which I think we will, because if we don't, a lot of schools aren't going to make it. But Florida has a chance this year to be one of the teams in the 4-team playoff. The way their schedule sets up, they have LSU at home, and then Georgia obviously will be a huge game in Jacksonville. But their biggest road game is at Ole Miss. So Florida's schedule, this is the year 3 for Dan Mullen. They've done a tremendous job recruiting. They're going to continue recruiting well. But this is the year that we have a chance to be in that 4-team playoff.
It'll be very exciting. And as far as the folks down in there, Gainesville, you guys, I know the governor opened up the state a few weeks ago. How are things for you personally, and how are things folks around that college town?
Well, for a while, man, it was like a ghost town, but things are starting to happen a little bit around here. It's interesting. Y'all may not know, but my son's a preferred walk-on quarterback for the Gators. He was a freshman last year. And really good player, a lot better than I was, just didn't get my height. He's about 5'10", 170. But it's been interesting how they get all their workouts sent to them via text, videos. It's all this body weight stuff while we've been quarantined. And so I think either June 1st, I don't know if it's June 1st, June 8th, or June 15th, they are planning to start having kids, quote, have come back with some voluntary workouts. So to be anxious to see, but we have to play college football, or I don't know if our country can survive.
That's the interesting thing to me, Shane, is what we talked about off the air and on the air. This is nothing different than we do off the air. Maybe some language be worse. But as far as the subject matter, one of the things that we talked about is the very fact of how it looks like the SEC is saying we're going to play football, and then you have some other conferences not. It's going to be really interesting to see if how that all shakes up with bowl seasons, with certain contracts between the two schools or different things like that. If they don't play or that sort of thing. So I'm interested to see how that comes about. But I totally agree with you. I think there's a lot of people that are saying the season won't be played, and we're just talking about May right now. We have a long time before that decision needs to be made.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. We have to play, and my fear is, depending on when they start, hopefully we start on time and have a regular season. But they're talking about only playing conference games or what have you. But for the Troy universities of the world, the South Alabamas, even the East Carolinas, they need that big payday.
Oh yeah, we do.
They need to go play that game in the swamp or between the hedges or in Tuscaloosa or wherever, because the smaller programs, that's how they survive. And not only that, though, it's a great opportunity for the kids on those teams that had dreams of playing in the SEC big time college football. It's their one chance to go get that experience in a great stadium with a great environment. Now, even if they do get to play this year, I don't think we're going to have a packed house. I think it's going to be 20 or 30,000 fans. I don't know what they're going to do, but I hope they figure something out, because those smaller tiered schools need that payday.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think we're going to play it. I think the NFL, I think a lot of they'll figure it out by that point. The good news, this is something I haven't mentioned to the guys, so this is an audible right here at the line. Shane knows about those, but for me personally, I was thinking about it the other day. Can you imagine, early this week I was thinking about, can you imagine the fact what if this COVID-19 had broke and happened, say August or September, and not the early part of this year? That would hurt a lot of programs even more than it's hurting them now.
Yeah, I guess if you want to say that the only good that came out of it, it happened while the spring sports were in session.
Hurt, yeah.
Not really the fall sports. So I know it screwed up March Madness, which cost a lot of people a lot of money. But hopefully we can get this thing under control. I think it's more comes down to having common sense when you're out and about. But if we can get a vaccine soon or what have you, but we got to get back to some type of normalcy. And I know it sounds terrible, but sports are a part of our lives, everybody's life, and we got to start playing sports again.
Yep.
It certainly brings everybody together, and certainly there are a lot of people that they may be from different walks of life. It's beautiful to be at a stadium. I've seen it many times at Dowdy Ficklin Stadium, where people that may not normally get together, they're together, and they see that purple on, and they high five each other. They're hugging each other because of the big victories that we have seen in the past, and we will see again. Great stuff. Hey, how can we find you again on your podcast? And before we let you go, can you tell us about maybe some social media, how we can keep up with you?
Yeah, again, it's Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. You can check it out on Facebook Live, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. My Twitter, let me think of what my Twitter is. I think it's SM Niner, SMNINER, which was my number. And I guess that's about it. I'm not real good when it comes to all this stuff, but yeah, hey, I appreciate you guys having me on and talking to the Pirate Nation.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Shane, and we enjoyed the conversation. Look forward to having you on again soon.
Absolutely. Y'all take care. Be safe.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Shane.
Great there from Shane Matthews. Appreciate him very much, and definitely love to have him back on. A lot of great stories, and I'm sure there's a lot of stories that because of the old ball coach you can't tell. We don't have to worry about the FCC, but certainly we try, as Kyle can tell you and Bubba can tell you, we try really hard to keep it at least PG, if not G. Yep. Most of the time, where all the my kids can watch the show or listen to the show, and that's something. So can Bubba's. That's something we can be very proud of. Well, this is the moment that a lot of people have been waiting for. We want to be able to talk about the breaking news today. Very upset about the decision made today to cut 4 sports. We're going to talk about that now. And I guess at this point, what's going to be what's next. So, guys, where do you want to start? How do you want to dissect everything?
Well, I mean, I guess you got to kind of start where it is, and you know, more while we're in this situation. And you know, I think it all starts back with the so-called Greenville Mafia, running Terry Holland out of town, and that started the downward trajectory. Made a piss poor decision to hire Jeff Confer after we ran Holland out of town. Confer did nothing but make bad decisions, like firing Ruffin McNeil. Talbot Tower, Cecil Staten brought in. Should have never been brought in as chancellor.
Buying a chancellor's house.
Certain people are responsible for him becoming chancellor. And we know who they are. And then Talbot Tower, just in general, man, just the whole situation, you know, with Talbot Tower, it was too much money spent. For years, people asked Holland, why don't we replace the double wide in the sky? And Holland's answer was, it's functionable, and you don't make money with a press box. It's not a good model for making money, dumbasses. And so you add suites and club level seating that we didn't need because we had a club level. Instead of just building a reasonable press box with a few suites, you had this how many millions of dollars is 80 million, 40 million?
65.
The most recent number I'd heard was at least 65, maybe 67.
65.
Yeah, 65 million, you know, giant. And what does it do? What does it do for us? Do recruits walk in and go, God almighty, the press has a fancy press box to sit in. Holy shit, I got to play at East Carolina because ESPN has fancy seats to sit in. Look at this press box. I'm going to come here now. It does nothing for us. It was a waste of money. We could have had a nicer press box on a budget. Then to fire Ruffin McNeil. I'll shut up in a minute. Then the decision to fire Ruffin McNeil and Jeff Confer and Cecil Staten just continually to not care about the average East Carolina fan, run people off, piss people off. We didn't matter. Extending Jeff Confer's contract, board of trustees, and some of you are still there. Doing all this crap, putting us further and further in the hole to the point people quit buying season tickets. People quit coming around. Scotty Montgomery, didn't even mention him. Scotty hadn't even been mentioned. You bring in Scotty friggin' Montgomery and you just run the program to the ground. We rely so much on season ticket sales here in football. Football has to be strong.
Yes.
And because of poor decisions by the previous administration, they ran our football program into the ground. They made promises they couldn't keep with no plans. We got a press box we can't pay for that's put us in debt. We're projecting, you know, selling X number of tickets, and we're not even coming close to meeting those marks because of how bad football's been. I mean, and we're buying out Jeff Confer still. Buying out $21 million or $21,000 a month. I think we're paying Jeff Confer. And
how about Cecil Staten?
Make him sue. Make Confer, and plus Staten. I guess we're buying out Staten too. But make Confer sue if he wants to get paid. Make him sue us. Make him tie us up in court. I'll tell you what you do. You make him sue. Even if he wins, you put that money, you put $21,000 in an IRA every month, and you tie him up in court for 5 years. Then if you have to pay him, if you can't settle out of court for what you owe him, you know, for half of it, and you have to end up paying him the whole amount, let's say it takes 5 years, you tied him in court, and you have to end up paying. Well, you put that $21,000, you'd be paying him every month in an IRA. Then by the time you end up paying him, you've at least drawn some interest and made some of your money back, even if he gets his money. So just don't hand him his money. Make him work for it. Make him take us to court. So anyway, it's a shame. At the end of the day, we had to cut sports. It's going to save us roughly around $1 million a year, what I heard, with those 4 sports being cut. So it's a shame it had to be done. I wish we could have cut lacrosse, and that's nothing against Amanda or the girls on the lacrosse team, just out of purpose, because Confer and Shelley brought it in and didn't need to be brought in. We didn't need to add another sport now that we're cutting 4. I think COVID-19 just added on to problems that were already there. You can't blame this on COVID-19. COVID-19 was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. So I hate it for the men and women that play tennis. I hate it for the coaches. I hate it for the swim and diving teams. That we have a lot of tradition in those sports.
We just won a championship in March. We just won a championship in March. I mean, come on. I'll tell you the problem I have right now. I'm gonna tell you guys, and I'll are you done, or I'll let you go on a little bit more.
I'll finish my thought.
Okay.
I think John Gilbert has been handed a tough situation. I think he's a good man. I think he making some tough decisions. The one thing I would tell John and I would tell Ryan and all those guys is you need a little fire, man. We need a little fire. Something needs to motivate Pirate Nation. We need to hear a rally. We need to hear some piss and vinegar from you. We need organization with the Pirate Club. The Pirate Club's a hot mess. I mean, there's no field reps. Ryan Robinson is the acting head, and we need leadership in the Pirate Club. And then I would end it with this with Ron
Mitchelson.
Mitchelson. Yes, Mitchelson. Ron, I think, is a solid person, and I don't think right now it's the time to be replacing the chancellor. We're in too much turmoil, particularly if it's going to be another political appointment. And there's some people that want to do that. Yep. So let Mitchelson just let things play out. Just give it time. If you don't want to name him chancellor, let him stay on as intern for another year or so. And we need something stable. Man, we need. That's another thing, man. There's just been so much turmoil. We need things to be stable for a while at the university.
For me personally, I'm very upset. First, another thing you forgot to mention, Kyle, is that we had the issue with the chancellor's house that was not cool, and we promised the neighborhood association we were going to keep the chancellor's house on Fifth Street. We spent, I think we spent speaking of spending, like $1 million. We said we spent $1 million on the, and then we not only that, so we went away from that. Then we went to buy a house from a guy that was a former member of the ECU Foundation. The house was worth $900,000, and we bought it for what, 1.3 million. I mean, it's away from the university. It's not a part of campus. That was a terrible decision. Another part of the Greenville Mafia. That was a terrible idea, and I'm coming clean about it. I've been holding back for a long time. But all three of us are nice guys. We spend thousands of dollars every single year on this podcast, thousands of hours working to promote ECU sports. We're spending money on season tickets, Pirate Club, you name it. We've done it for East Carolina. And so what I want to see is, okay, you cut the sports. There's a lot of people that want to cut the sports. You cut the sports today. What's your plan? What's your plan? I'm not hearing anything about $10 million, how that's erased. We got plenty of people right now that talk a big game, that never contribute to the university ever. And I don't care if you're $1 million donor or you're a potential dollar or $100 donor. We have a lot of people that never, ever give, but they're the first people to complain. We need those folks to step up, number one. I'm very upset about the swimming and diving. For example, we have a guy like Rick Kobe, a Hall of Famer who spent, 30 years at the university. You're just going to throw that all away? That's going to vanish? Do you really think cutting 4 sports, $1 million a year, do you think that's going to help the problem? We've got a lot other problems than cutting sports. And that was just, to me, that was just to show people that we're doing something about it. It's a permanent decision for a temporary problem. I tell you what we need to do. Dave Hart said it best when he said, we need to make football healthy. So all you people out there right now, buy season tickets. We have it's embarrassing, 4,600 season tickets is all we've sold. And you look at 10 years ago, when we were winning championships, 24, what was it, Bubba? 24,500 we sold under Skip Holtz. We are Pirates. Everybody talks about how they love the Pirates. We love the Pirates. What's that?
Did we ever get that high? Jesus.
It was pretty close. Yeah. It was at least upper 23s, yeah.
And so what I'm saying is now, instead of everybody, I'm hearing on radio shows and different things, people pointing fingers. What I want you to do is everybody come together. Instead of a slogan being One Pirate Nation, why can't we just literally buy season tickets, Give more money to the Pirate Club. If it's $10 million, why can't people come on a podcast or a radio show, television, newspaper, and if you have to beg or whatever we have to do to get the 10 million, let's get the 10 million, move on. I'm sick and tired of hearing about how we're in debt. We can be out of debt. But everybody, instead of pointing fingers about who did what or when, that's over. Now this is a new day. This is a new era. Those sports are gone. I'm sick and tired of hearing about over and over and over again about how we're in debt. We've been hearing about that we knew this is not like this is new today. It's not like COVID. You can't blame COVID-19. We were in debt way before COVID-19, going all the way back to people getting desserts and free liquor. I mean, that's what we've got.
Dave, I think the reason, like I was just pointing fingers is because some people that are still involved.
I know that.
Some people that you have a lot of respect for because of what they did for you in the past, that won't admit the crap they've done and want to try to make it look good. If you're going to keep being involved, look, if you quit doing the same crap. First of all, if you've made mistakes in the past, realize you've made mistakes. Realize what you're doing is hurting the university. And if you want to stay involved, quit doing the same crap. Quit making your party, and particularly your side of a political party, more important than the university and the people of Eastern North Carolina.
I was going to say that. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican. Everybody knows there's different political views on this show. Number one.
The Republican Party in this state is divided.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I don't care about any of that. I don't care who you vote for. Look right here. We're all, let's see if I can get up there. I can't do it real good. There we go. All Pirates. And you look at my ring. We're all Pirates. All right. We're Pirates. Why do we have to worry about who's appointed? If it's Tim Moore, we don't care. We don't want Tim Moore. Let me go ahead and say on the record, we don't want Tim Moore as chairman.
Yeah.
We don't. I mean, there's the chancellor.
I don't know anything about Tim Moore. He doesn't seem to have a lot of. I personally, being we are a facility of higher learning and education, I would like someone with that kind of background as the chancellor. I don't know.
Yeah.
That may be crazy, but it seems like a good idea. I really don't know anything about Tim Moore except he's a Republican speaker. I don't think we need to make a change right now at the chancellor position, period, for a while. And I'm not just repeating what Troy said today on Pirate Radio. We just happen to agree on this. I think you need to leave Ron alone.
Yes.
Give him time. If you don't want to make him the permanent chancellor, then leave the interim tag on him and give him at least another year to stabilize things. And then let's get the right person in here. And, he's been at this university for a long time. It's time for people to quit using East Carolina for political gain and for power and to be a part of some kind of club. And, it's ridiculous. And because you're hurting the university. And if you can't admit it, Harry Smith was talking about it today, and I agree with this wholeheartedly. If you don't have the passion for it, if you're just a rubber stamp yes man, get your ass off the board.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can't question things,
I agree with that.
I know John Brame's a very controversial figure, but somebody like him that questions everything is the kind of people we need on the board. Right. Because you're going to have, before it passes through, it's going to have to pass the smell test. And to me, that's what I want on a board. I want somebody that's going to question everything. And then when you present why it's going to work, then when it passes, it's going to be the right decision. And it doesn't have to be John, because a lot of people don't like John. But somebody of that ilk, not a yes man.
Well, by the way, today is a good day because John became a father today in fatherhood. So congratulations, John and Jennifer. Everything is going good.
Last night the baby was born.
Yeah,
I think around 7:00 Eastern, and healthy baby boy. And so congratulations to both of them.
So I forgot to say that. And also, before I do a more rant, I just wanted to say, sending our thoughts and prayers out to Coach Pat Dye, under the weather right now. We're praying really hard for you, Coach. And there's a lot of great friends of ours, including Terry Gallagher, that come on the podcast a lot. I know Coach has been sick the last few weeks, and we're thinking about you. And I just want to say to all of Pirate Nation watching and that listen to the podcast, please say a big prayer, a big one for Coach right now. He's fighting very hard, and certainly we're thinking about him. As far as to me, what's missing for me for everything is simply, as I've said the last 2 years for this podcast, and everybody else has a platform, so this is our platform that we can talk. For me, what's missing for me is still there's no plan. We hear about committees, and I'm tired of hearing about. That's another thing. Please don't have another committee. Don't have another committee. Committees don't do anything. All they did is rubber stamp what you wanted to do today, and you got your wish, and you did it. And so now what I want to see is not this like shell game, like we're doing something, because guess what? At the end of the day, the big picture is we're $10 million in debt. I want to hear what you're going to do for the 10 million, not cutting sports, because that's a small for tennis and for swimming. That's a small drop in the bucket. We've got leadership problems that because of spending has hurt us. But the revenue issue is what we need to see is how we can, you know what, I would not be opposed. And I know the Dowdies may get mad at me. John Bream, speaking of which, had a great idea. Why not have a title sponsor for the name of the stadium and then at Dowdy Ficklin Stadium? I mean, whoever that would be, I'm not going to throw it out there. But if that's what it takes to get 10 million erased, big donors, asking those of us donors to give more at a time right now, a special fund, anything is better. And also, where are we going in the next 10 or 20 years? We need an indoor practice facility. How about, I think the world of Cliff Godwin, and the guy's telling you, give me this. The man has got a top 25 program, and he's asking you for these things. That's helping recruiting. That's going to win a national championship with us in the short future. It's not going to be in the near future, not in a long-term situation. Give that guy whatever he wants. I mean, he's a top 25 coach in the nation. That ECU is well known in baseball and basketball with Joe Dooley. Look at him. He's doing great things. Let's do things for Williams Arena. We can do that if we got to tackle the debt, sure, but we've got to have a plan of where we're going. And that's one thing that's been missing for me for quite a while. It doesn't matter filling the athletic director. It doesn't matter who the athletic director is.
Well, I think part of the problem that Gilbert's facing is there's so much debt and so overwhelming that he may be having trouble figuring a plan of attack. The biggest thing would be to get the simple answer to me, Dave, besides winning, obviously, would be to get the Tire Club back on good footing.
Yes.
Get Tire Club membership up, get people donating more, I don't know what we're doing with the Tire Club. And, Ryan Robinson is, interim, and he's doing 2 jobs. And, I mean, I just don't know what Tire Club is. Blow it up, start over. I mean, it's like
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
There's no growth. There's no growth in the Pirate Club. And what do we do? What do we do at the Pirate Club? What are the events we have? Well, let's have an Armada with a dinner with some shitty chicken, and then we'll go out there and we'll have the coaches come speak, and then here's what else we'll do. We'll have a golf tournament. It's the same crap over and over. You're doing nothing to appeal to younger people. You're doing nothing to get the students as they graduate to want to be involved in the Pirate Club. You do, hey, how about this, y'all? How about this? We have a huge education department at East Carolina. We're a teacher school. Yes. We have a huge nursing department. More women go to East Carolina than men. Why don't the Pirate Club do something to appeal to women? Why don't we have an active recruitment of female graduates to contribute to the Pirate Club? I mean, there's a lot more female alums than there are male alums. Let's appeal to them. They got money too. So, I mean, let's reach out to everybody we can and get money. And I think being transparent, I think this is a good start about our financial situations is good publicly. And I think people need to be addressed. And, people want something. Unfortunately, people don't just want to give to the Pirate Club to help ECU athletics like we do. People want something. If they don't want it for status and say, well, I'm the biggest wig in the Pirate Club, and now I can go and get this special seat. They like to be able to go to the golf tournaments, or they like the Armadas, and then for the younger people, they don't care about that crap. So we need something to appeal to them. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but we can come up with something to get the young graduates, the student Pirate Club. We need to make sure those numbers are up. And then we need to make sure as they graduate, they stay in the Pirate Club. And it feels like something for old men, and that's the problem. It feels like a group for old white men instead of a group for East Carolina supporters that are young, old, black, white, Hispanic, male, female, and let's make one pirate nation. Let's have one pirate club. A club. Let's not even call it a pirate club. A club sounds exclusive. I don't know what you call it. I guess it's a booster club. I guess you got to call it some crap like that. But everybody who cares about East Carolina, and let me tell you something right now. If you're watching this, we're probably preaching to the choir. But if you cared about East Carolina at one point in time, you can be angry. I'm still angry. But if you ain't going to get to the Pirate Club anymore, and you ain't going to support the university right now, and give money, then all those memories you have, all those things you love, winning the Peach Bowl, winning the Liberty Bowl, winning the conference championships under Skip Holtz, beating NC State and UNC, and all the times that we beat all those ACC schools under Ruff and McNeil, all those great memories, you can hang them up because we continue down this path. 10 years from now, we might be playing FCS football.
That's the thing that worries me is the very fact that when you have a great coach like Mike Houston, okay, I bet you Mike Houston, and I know he said it off the record, but I know Mike Houston probably when he came here, he said, "Oh my God, what in the world?" What?
He's probably saying, "Well, now what in the hell have I gotten myself into?"
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Think about this. James Madison, great school. We're going to have Brian North from Channel 12 on soon. We like him a lot. I know people personally that have been at James Madison. It's a beautiful campus. I have nothing against it. But James Madison has an indoor practice facility. Liberty University has a practice facility. Why can't people get in their heads that we need an indoor practice facility? And guess what? You don't build an indoor practice facility overnight. That's what I'm talking about, coming back to a plan. Coach Houston deserves an indoor practice facility. Anything Coach Houston wants, Joe Dooley, and look at Cliff Godwin. We've got a lot of great coaches in East Carolina. This is the best coaches we've had in a long time.
Yeah, we got to get out of debt first, but you can make a plan.
Yeah.
Once we get out of debt, to start building those facilities. Bubba, you haven't spoken on this, but we'll start with this. You spoke how App State just has a simple indoor practice facility. It doesn't have to be multi-million dollars, just like the press box didn't have to. It just has to look good and serve the purpose.
Yeah, that's what I don't know what apps cost, and it's been around several years now as well. And obviously, the cost of construction has significantly risen. But as far as theirs, I want to say I think they may have expanded, or they at least have plans to expand it. But it's at least 60, but maybe like 70 or 80 yards. It was certainly, I know it was nowhere close to 120. So, but yeah, it was functional. It served the purpose, and obviously a much different climate up there as far as the cold. But
Yeah,
like you said, Kyle, with the thunderstorms and hurricanes and other things that we experience in Eastern North Carolina that the mountains don't experience so much, it's certainly needed.
Yeah, Bobby,
It
what
really
do you think on this in general? You haven't really given your opinion on the whole.
As far as the cutting of sports, I haven't had the opportunity to watch the entire press conference from this afternoon. I was watching it live. Unfortunately, there were some Facebook or ECU technical issues on wherever that lied. But I've watched about the first 5 or 10 minutes of the replay, and Dr. Ron Mitchelson's comments at the very beginning is what you would have probably expected him to say, but it certainly seemed very heartfelt, horribly difficult, equally necessary. That was something that stood out. I thought that was well said, because that's certainly how I feel. And I think the majority of Pirate Nation feels that it was a horribly difficult decision for our leadership, but also, unfortunately, equally necessary. It's just such a shame that you have to see those 4 programs, I think 68 athletes, 9 coaches,
Yep.
and between our head coaches and assistant coaches, and then all the alumni. I saw a lady posting on Facebook, her husband is a swimmer for ECU back in the 1960s, and she was just talking about those relationships that he developed back then 50 plus years ago are still his best friends today, from the swim team. So just things like that, memories that are going to live on, but unfortunately they saw their program that they loved so much and gave their blood, sweat, and tears for go by the wayside today. Hopefully will have success and be able to bring it back in the future.
Yeah, and that was something else about the reason swimming was chose despite the success instead of something else was because apparently the aquatic center needed significant upgrades, and it just wasn't a commitment we could afford to make or was willing to make right now. So I think that was why I think tennis was a pretty obvious choice. No offense to anyone, but I think that's why it was the tough decision to cut swimming was because of the upgrades needed to the aquatic center.
Yes, I knew that I had seen what Steve Igo, who's going to be on the program soon, of course, from Hoist the Colors, what he had said. Even though I didn't hear Gilbert say this, Steven said, Gilbert says the state of the current facilities for tennis and swimming and diving played a large role, and that's something that I was aware of ahead of time for sure. Tennis had been leasing a facility, and John Gilbert said that those leases will be allowed to expire, of course. When he was asked about that, and he said we will continue to use the Minges Natatorium for academic purposes for at least the immediate future, but we'll see how long that goes on. And that's one of the questions I was actually talking to my dad this afternoon. We're interested in what the cost of the upkeep would be for the Minges Natatorium for academic purposes.
And what about club swimming? I mean, I'm assuming that there are universities in the area that have club swimming that if we want to have a club swimming team that they could compete with.
Well,
I certainly hope that all these student athletes, well, first of all, like John Gilbert and Dr. Ron Mitchelson said, their scholarships, yes, that's a year-to-year thing, but if they wanted to remain at East Carolina and not swim, then they can certainly do so. But like you're saying,
they're not going to do it.
I imagine a large percentage is.
They're not going to do that. I mean, that's really dumb. They know they're not going to stay. That's why they said they're going to honor the scholarships. It's a nice thing. And if we're going to be real, we're going to have to be really real right now. And I think that the days of those of us being nice are not going to be nice anymore. We're tired of spending thousands of dollars, thousands of hours, thousands of everything to see the program implode. And we've got to decide. We're at a crossroads, gentlemen. We got to decide: are we Division I? Are we FCS? People would get mad at me for saying that, but when you make decisions like you made today, and going all the way back to 2013, it doesn't look as a Division I program. And Kyle, I know when you said when we lost to James Madison and Mike Houston, we were definitely they were way better than us. An FCS program was better than us. Under this A&T, of course. So we've got to decide: do we want to be a Division I school, or do we want to drop back to FCS? I mean, I'm really serious. I'm not joking, because decisions that are made like today, when you're $10 million.
I mean, Dave, you're entitled to your opinion. And I mean, I hate to put too much on the decision of today. I don't think it's anybody's theirs now's fault that today's decision had to be made.
I'm not blaming them as far as do I think that they made the decisions, terrible decisions? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that look at the big picture. When you're $10 million in the hole, these sports that we picked today are not the problem. And I think that I still don't see a plan of how we get out of there. How do we get out of $10 million when another thing to address, and I want to make it very clear here on our platform, is the very fact of, I believe it'll never happen, but I believe the way that board of trustees are picked are terrible. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I want people that love East Carolina. I don't give a damn if you're a Democrat or Republican. I love East Carolina. East Carolina gave me a chance when they should have never given me a chance to enter the school, and they did. And guess what? I graduated, and that made me even more proud of a Pirate. And I'm wearing my ring today. I'm wearing my shirt today because I'm like, the people that made the decisions today won't be around in 20 or 30 years. They won't be there, but I will still be a Pirate once and for all. I'll die a Pirate. And that's one things I'm very frustrated about, is people keep coming in, making decisions that are paid Pirates. And guess what? They leave, but we get to inherit the problems. And we never solve the problems. We just that's what we're doing today. We're just passing it down the line. We need to roll up the sleeves and do something about it, and not just say we're doing something about it by cutting sports, because that doesn't do it. That doesn't solve it.
I think one of the problems is, and I alluded to it before, Dave, is there's some people here that claim they love the university and maybe have done a lot for the university in the past that are still being involved and making bad decisions because they're running it like it was ran 20 years ago.
True.
They're doing things for political gains and social gains and instead of what's best for the university. And you got to stop doing that crap. And until that happens, until those people get the hell away from the programs or they get the hell away from the university or remember what this university is supposed to be, it's just going to keep happening. And that's the problem. I mean, you can have this person or that person, if certain people don't like them, they're going to make sure they get out of here some way, shape, or form. So until the Steve Logan used to call him the lunatic fringe, until this handful of rich white assholes quit ruining things, and the majority isn't ruling, it's time for the majority to step up because the majority of the people feel like I feel like you feel. And it's time that the majority rules instead of the minority. And the minority in this case ain't used to being the minority, rich white assholes. So and tell those guys, look, we'll take your money, but shut up and sit down. You don't know what you're doing anymore. You know nothing about how modern universities and athletics should be ran. So give your money, but shut up and sit down. Go sit in the multi-million-dollar press box in your suite, and let the Gen Xers run shit because it's time that that our generation is running things, and you take your old asses over there. And this isn't an ageist thing. This is a group of people, not all older people that are from that age group are like this. So understand that when I'm saying this, because a lot of cool people. Barry Kearney, I'm looking at you.
That's right.
But people from that from that set, go take your ass to your suite and let some people, let some new blood get in there and make some decisions.
It's very frustrating because we sit around and where everybody talks about how we're going to be this big school. We're a big school. We're a big school. Big schools don't do this. And what I mean by that is they don't allow. I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about collectively, like when I was on Adam Gold's show yesterday, I said, Adam, I'm trying to give you 7 years and 7 minutes. I think it was about 8, but it's that very thing. There's so much has happened. And I even talked about at the beginning of that interview, there's so much has happened. ESPN could do a 30 for 30, man. It would be kick ass. I'm going to just tell you that right now. But my biggest thing is, I think that things have gotten way out of control, way out of hand. Again, I want to see a plan. I've said it for 2 years, the master plan of where are we going in the next 5, 10, 20 years. Guess what? I make plans all the time. They change, but at least I have a plan. No plan is a plan. It's just not a good one. And we keep doing that over and over and over again. We waited 40 years for a press box. That was from 1978. And we could have had a nice press box if we had gone like in end of Logan's term in the 90s. That's when we needed to build one. So that's what I'm talking about is when you don't have a plan. And then what's happening is you don't have a plan. And then all these people come and go, new athletic directors, new administrators just keep coming and going. And after a while, it's like, stop the insanity, like Susan Powder. I mean, stop the insanity. We've been doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It's not happening. And
you can look at it just in football. You can go all the way back to the 80s. Well, we ran Ed Emery away. So somebody who won, but had a couple seasons and weren't great, but he was a winner. Let's run him away. Well, then we suck.
And he was an alum too. Remember, he was an alum.
Yeah.
And then we hire Art Baker and we suck. And then Steve Logan comes in and he wins. And then we get tired of him.
Bill Lewis. Nobody
fired Bill Lewis. I'm making a point here. Okay. So we run in Emery off, and then we bring in Art Baker, and we suck. Then we run Steve Logan off, we bring in John Thompson, and we suck. And then we run Ruffin McNeil off, and we bring in Scotty Montgomery, and we suck. It's because we keep doing the same things over, and I'll tell you what, if it happens again, I'm telling you right now, let's say Mike Houston turns it around and it's 6-6 and it's 7-5 and it's 8-4 and it's 5-7 and it's 6-6 and it's 5-7 and it's 7-5 and he doesn't ever have that big 12-win season, they'll be, let's run Mike Houston off, get him out of here. And people better remember. If you do that, you better have a damn good plan in place. Because if not, you're going to wind up with Scotty Montgomery or John Thompson or Art Baker.
You sound like Gomer Pyle there. I used to have flashbacks as a kid. I used to love that. That Gomer Pyle. Shazam. I mean, we could talk hours about this. I think that it's something that started. I hope that certainly what I'm hoping for is that we can start a brand new. Maybe this is a fresh start. I'm hopeful and I'm praying really hard for our leadership, and I mean that sincerely, that they will listen to us. One of the things that I will say about John Gilbert and Ryan Robinson that I like the most is they talk to everybody, they listen to everybody. They're not like the previous administration. If you're one of the big donors, then that's what they would do. They would only listen to the big donors. They wouldn't listen to any of us. Forget about those of us in the $100 to $1,000 range. Forget about any of us. And that was one of the things that I love about Gilbert. Hey, I love the fact that John Gilbert drives a pickup truck. I think that's cool as all get out, that a guy from a guy that's living in Eastern North Carolina drives a truck. But anyway, he gets the culture. I'm just hopeful. I'm going to keep praying that finally the light bulb will go off in the Ward building, that people will understand that we need to do something. We can't keep doing this over and over again. So we can talk about it all night, guys. We've got a big night tomorrow night with trivia. And also, speaking of season tickets, order your season tickets, 1-800-DIAL-ECU. If you care about the program, order the season tickets. Forget about the past. We can't do anything about the past anyway. We can't do anything about it.
What you're saying, Dave, about 1-800-ECU, ECUpirates.com season tickets. If we don't play the season or the season is shortened, maybe we play 4 games instead of 6 at home, you'll get a refund. I don't know that I would even accept my refund at this point, to be honest. Okay. But if you're of that ilk and maybe you can't afford not to get your refund, then order your tickets. If that's something you're worried about, order your tickets. You'll get a refund if the season's not played. And also, hey, let me point this out. Yeah. Dave, Bubba, there's a lot of talk going around that it may be limited capacity at football stadiums this year. So let's say all of a sudden we're only allowed to have a certain percentage, maybe 10,000 people at Dowdy Ficklin. You better have your season ticket, because that's probably how you're going to get in. If you don't, so you might want to make sure you get them, because if we have limited capacity, season ticket holders are going to get first come, first served basis. So you better get your tickets now.
And Bubba, before I forget too, I want to mention to bring you in, because one of the things we want to mention, we're giving away a pair of season tickets. We love the program so much that we put our money together. We got a pair of season tickets that we're giving away. And Bubba, how do they do that? How do they win the tickets?
That's what they follow us on social media, then go to our Facebook page. How you very well may be watching right now. You can like, follow, and share our post there. It's pinned at the top of the page, and that will get you one entry. You can also follow us on Twitter at @thesportsobj, and you can retweet and like our pinned tweet there, and that will get you a second entry. You can also screenshot proof of wherever you subscribe to the show and reply with that either on Facebook or Twitter. That would get you a third entry, and then a fourth way to get your name in the hat for 4 chances at winning these tickets is to go to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So those are the 4 ways you can put your name into the hat, anywhere from 1 to 4 times. And then some other things that I had, the first thing, actually kind of piggybacking off what you're saying, Kyle, as far as the importance of buying season tickets. I think it's Gene Smith, the AD at Ohio State, put an article out there today. I believe it was you that sent it to me. And as far as that's concerned, the capacity there at the Horseshoe is obviously in excess of 100,000, and they were planning for anywhere from like 20 to 22,000 to be in attendance. So I know that's where you're pulling that 10,000 number from. So whether it's season ticket holders and then obviously you have students who are paying fees, and typically we have anywhere from 8 to maybe even 11 or 12,000 students in attendance. So that's going to be very interesting as well. How many tickets students are entitled to? Go ahead, Dave, before I continue.
I'm sorry. I was just going to add to your thought, Bubba. And I mentioned to you guys the other night, I think what you do is very simple. You and Bubba, Kyle, you and Bubba do a great job, and I'll have to do a better job, because I think what we should do is just like the TSA. I think for a few hours in advance, people start lining up, put a mask on, check them to make sure their temperature's right. And I have no problems whatsoever as long as people are wearing a mask and we check their temperatures. That's the biggest thing for me going into the stadium, because I tell you what, we have a big issue right now. COVID is not going to be for here forever. It's a short-term thing, but what is going to be here forever, hopefully, is football. And if we have 10,000 people, I mean, that's the worst that I've ever heard of. If that's all we have, I mean, that's how we make our money, and we've got to have that money to make the program go.
And it's better than no fans. If you have,
I know that, yeah.
I mean, that's I'd like to see it. I think, maybe if we can do 50% capacity, that'd be 25,000.
That's better than nothing, yeah.
And that'd be fine. I think, that's about what we've been drawing anyway.
That would be a great day for us. Unfortunately,
sold out 25,000. But
maybe we'd have an excuse then, right? And then instead of half full.
I do think it'll be at a reduced capacity. I really do. And it is certainly part of how now football contract TV money is going to start kicking in this year, Dave.
Yeah.
So you do get $8 million a year off your TV contract, or between $7 and $8 million, I believe.
Yeah.
So that is important. So that does help, even if we have a reduced capacity. I think you have to play the season even if it's no fans. I don't imagine that's going to be the case with no fans. I don't see it. I don't foresee a world come late August, September, whenever, where we can at least, and then who knows, but you would think we would at least be able to get 10,000 people in a 50,000 seat stadium outside and space them out. I mean, if we can have 1,000 people in Walmart, to be sure we can have 10,000 people at Dottie Quick Stadium.
Don't get me started about that. I mean, I'm about to start to wear a mask for the show. Oh my God.
I know we're both Democrats. Pull the cat out of the bag. We might have just lost some viewers and listeners with that one. Bubba's a Republican. But I
don't have other than us, right?
Governor Cooper's getting on my nerves for some of his stuff. The things that can open, the things that can. I mean, you're telling me that playgrounds can't open, but swimming pools can. You're telling me that a restaurant that has a bar can open at 50% capacity, but a regular bar can't. I mean, there's just some things that don't make any sense to me. I mean, open everything up at 50% capacity and call it a day.
Well, I think there are the different phases that they are going to do that, and it hurts. There are people that are getting unemployment right now that it's not enough, but they're doing everything they can right now. I think it's
phase two, Dave. Originally phase two, bars are going to be open, playgrounds are going to be open.
Mike Radford said sports, so
yeah. I mean, we need everything. Just open everything up at 50% capacity and call it a day.
Thank you, Mike. That's what we're not the political objective, we're the sports objective. And as I said earlier, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I want you to watch us. I want you to like us because we love the Pirates. And that's what I care about. I'm sincere when I say that. I'm not going to change. And that's another thing. I'm not going to change anybody's mind. I'm not going to use my platform and our platform to try to change somebody's mind politically. What I'm trying to do is just
my own mind. So how about that?
You will change your own mind.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I really. We'll talk about that all there.
Okay. All right, guys, we could talk all night. I know we've been almost an hour and a half. I just want to thank everybody so much for thinking about this earlier. We've been in existence for 2 years. Thank you so much for all that you've done for us. I don't say that a lot, but we have a lot of people on Facebook Live and on YouTube, and Bubba works his tail off on getting the guest. Thank you, Kyle, too. It means a lot. I think that sometimes you have to get hit between the eyes like we did today to appreciate and have gratitude for the things you do have left. And so friends and family that are watching, listening, it means the world to me. And
Hey, before we wrap this up, fun question for both of you guys and anybody watching if you want to answer. With restaurants opening up this weekend, where are you looking forward to going? I mean, obviously places you've been able to get takeout, but where are you guys looking to go sit down and eat? And are you going to go out to eat this weekend as restaurants open up to 50% capacity. I'm looking forward to going to my favorite Chinese restaurant here in Goldsboro at a place called China House over at the corner of Ash and off of Ash on Berkeley, going towards the base. Great Chinese place. Looking forward to going in there and eating. What about you guys?
I'm glad you said Chinese food. That's at least takeout. My thing is our right near where I live, and you know where it is. I see Mike Rapper says Maureen's Kitchen. What town is that in? Mike, we'll give them a shout out. But as far as China,
that's his house.
Maureen's Kitchen. Oh, okay. Thank you, Mike. That's a good one. I didn't know. I didn't know his wife's name. We know Mike. I didn't know his wife's name. That's a good answer. I'll get takeout hopefully from the Chinese place here close to me.
You can do that now.
No, we can't. It's not open. No, that's it's not open.
That Chinese place hasn't even been doing takeout. Okay.
Nothing.
All right.
Exactly.
What about you, Bubba? Is Stacy going to allow y'all to go sit down in a restaurant? I bet you she's
Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A.
I can assure you she will not be going to sit down and eat at a restaurant, and I doubt I will either. Not because of that, but just
you don't want to eat alone.
Yeah, there's really no reason to get takeout, and then like you're saying, eat here with the family. But
I want to get out of the house. I enjoy the experience of sitting down in a restaurant with my wife and drinking a couple of beers and eating something and just hanging out. So I've missed that.
Well, we definitely can do that, and I think maybe it'll probably be for 2 more weeks before I'll even do it. Not because necessarily of COVID, just my schedule and everything. I will definitely continue to. I've been buying a lot of takeout, so that. And he says,
do you ever go to Deadwood and get a nice steak?
Yes, I do. When they open, absolutely. I love one of my favorite places. If you've never been, go outside of Williamston and Beargrass. A lot of people watching from the locally here know what I'm talking about, and maybe Greenville area. But if you ever get a chance, go to Deadwood. It's the Price family's friends of mine. They're awesome people, awesome atmosphere.
Great steaks,
going on
burgers. Cool atmosphere too.
No doubt about it. You guys have anything before we wrap things up?
Yeah, so as far as the swimming and diving program, that's just some things I want to point out. I know you talked earlier how they had won the championship this year, and that was the
I'll be right back, guys.
That was the 4th championship that the Pirates had won in the American in swimming and diving, and so just such a shame that such a tradition-rich program has to be cut. But unfortunately, those difficult decisions had to be made. But 2 national championships at I believe the NAIA level, kind of like baseball, and then you had 15 individual national champions, 47 All-Americans, 14 conference titles. And then they were also extremely good out of the pool, I should say, the highest GPA in the conference and at one time in the country. So excellent job by Rick Kobe. And then the last several years by Matt Jabs, who swam for Coach Kobe. So also wanted to promote tomorrow at noon, we'll be talking to Jamie Shaw. Jamie is with the Absolute Basketball Experience. Prior to that, he was with the Phenom Hoop Report. So he does an excellent job of covering high school basketball in the state of North Carolina. And we'll talk with Jamie about some of the top players in the 2021 and also 2022 classes. Earlier, we mentioned Stephen Igo. He'll be joining the program sometime next week, and we certainly have a lot to talk about with him, even more than usual. And then also we'll have Coach Dooley on the program, and Coach Joe Dooley will join the show next Thursday at noon. So lunchtime shows tomorrow and next Thursday talking Pirate hoops and then also high school basketball.
No doubt, Matt, Nay, special, and we appreciate you again for everybody listening. And we're gonna keep working hard. We're having a lot of people agreeing to come on. We could about do a show every single day. I know that our wives wouldn't like that, and certainly that. But anyway, we're definitely appreciative and grateful that people want to come on, and that's a good problem to have. Thank you so much to everybody for, again, your continued support of the program and the sports objective. It means the world to me and Bubba and Kyle. You see it. We're social distancing. We've been doing this for 2 years, 3 different towns. So we've been doing our part, and we'll continue to do that. I want to give a shout out before we go to all the first responders, to all the men and women that are doctors and nurses that put their lives.
Touching you. We're not social
distancing. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Certainly, I want to thank everybody for all that they're doing, the doctors and nurses, all the hospitals, certainly, there's a lot of people working countless hours to keep us safe. On the bottom of our hearts, I want to say thank you. A simple thank you. You are our heroes, and we appreciate you very, very much. Kyle, do you have anything before we go?
No, guys. Just tough times, man, and it's not going to get better overnight. Go Pirates, and hopefully, maybe this fall we'll have something to be happy about.
Bubba, how about you?
We talked about the Pirate Club earlier. I really didn't share any thoughts there. I've been involved with the Pirate Club for several years as a rep here in the Charlotte area, and prior to that in the Winston-Salem Piedmont Triad area. And so my thing, like you mentioned, the significant decrease of Pirate Club members. We haven't done a good job of getting those student Pirate Club members to become young grad Pirate Club members. At one time, we were right there around 8,000, give or take. Most recent numbers I knew of when we're in the end of 2018, I want to say we were like 53 or 5,400. So, you see literally a third of our Pirate Club membership had gone down the tubes.
Yeah, we got to work hard on that. There's no excuse for, let me say this, and I don't want to get on another tangent, but there's no excuse for as many graduates we have living to only have roughly 6,000 is all we have giving. It's over, 126,000, maybe way more than that, but I'm not the numbers guy. But that's another thing that we've got to do is do a better job of getting people that are alums to give to our university. When I tell people that they're shocked because they think East Carolina has the reputation that we have, the good reputation, believe it or not, that we have, and there's so many passionate fans out there, they think we have more than 6,000 giving. And so we've got to do a better job of that. We can't just talk about it. It's time to do something about it.
Hey, watch yourself. It ain't 6,000 alums giving because you got two-thirds of the podcast that are Pirate Club members that aren't alums.
Thank you. Well, yeah. Well, I meant to say, I'm sorry about that. I meant to say people that love the university. But I'm just saying that my point is there's a whole bunch of people that are graduates that are not giving.
You got these damn graduates that aren't giving, and you got people like me and Bubba who love the university, who have family ties to the university with his dad and my wife that care more about the university. And by the way, it's two different people. His dad's not my wife. But we got ties to the university, and we care more about the university than people actually went there. So it's sad.
Yeah, and we're certainly not by ourselves, Kyle. And there's certainly plenty of others who never attended East Carolina that just love the Pirates. And yeah, like you said, we have over 100,000 living alumni. And sure, we have those distance learners who aren't into athletics, just went to East Carolina because there's a place for them to achieve their goal of getting a college degree. We're not being unrealistic in that regard, but at the same time, we certainly have. You tell me. We have anywhere from, at least at one time, not that many years ago, we had anywhere from 40 to 50 plus thousand in Dowdy-Ficklin, and most of those were Pirate fans. And we only have 5,400 people in the Pirate Club now. That's not good.
Wow, even less than 6. Wow. Definitely, we got to do something about that. But again, we can talk all night, guys. I appreciate you so much. Did you have another topic, Bubba? I know. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to cut you off.
No. I'm good. I just wanted to plug that upcoming content with Jamie Shaw tomorrow at noon, and then also Joe Dooley next week on Thursday at noon.
So Jamie at 12 on a Friday.
All right, sounds good to me. At least for some of us. All right, Jamie, we'll see him definitely tomorrow right here on Facebook Live. Thank you so much for being a part of our show. Whether you listen to us, watch us, or both, you've been listening and watching the Sports Objective Podcast. Go Pirates!